Well, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Exploring in My Explorer Home Edition. And my very special guest, who is just sunshine in a human being, Alberti Popaj.
Ah, I love you. I love you, my
I
friend.
love you. I'm so excited. I've been waiting so long to do this with you.
The dogs are barking. They love you too, by the way.
That's okay. My cat used the litter box on live TV once. So,
Oh my gosh.
yes, dogs barking, cats doing stuff, it's part of life, right?
I totally want to hear that story one of these days. Maybe today.
Okay. Okay. So many of you know Alberti. He's a wonderful QVC show host,
Thank
and
you.
it was a dream come true for him.
Yes.
But he tells the story far better than I do. Hello, baby.
I know. Coco wanted to show off. I told you I was just, look at her pom-poms.
Oh.
I just trimmed them. I gave her a bath. I brushed her out. And then I was like, you know what? You need a little, I got all Edward Scissorhands on her.
I love it.
She might have to sit here if that's okay.
That's fine with me. It's
Okay.
totally fine with me. So, Alberti, first of all, where did you grow up?
New York City.
New York City.
I wanna see New York, New York.
I love it. I love it. And so, you love the city life?
You know, it's so funny. When I was growing up, right? So I was literally born and raised in New York City.
Okay.
I grew up on 82nd Street and 2nd Avenue. I was born at Lenox Hill Hospital on 77th Street in Lexington Avenue, right? And then I went to high school, grammar school, high school, and college. I went to NYU.
Okay.
So I always stayed in New York City, other than when I was, you know, maybe doing some other like singing and events like around the world, right?
Okay.
But I never thought I would leave New York City. I was like, why would I leave the best city in the world? I take the Q train or the N train, and I know exactly where it goes, and it hits my stores, and it hits my gym, and it hits my job, and it hits my, you know, like, it was like, I was like, why would anybody ever want to live outside of Manhattan?
Right, right.
And then when I was 25 years old, I went to Los Angeles for the first time ever.
Okay.
And I went like for a weekend, like just to kind of go and see what it was about. I came back home and I said to my parents, I'm going to move to LA. And they looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, well, it's just so beautiful. Like the weather's beautiful, the environment's beautiful, the people are beautiful, the homes were beautiful. And I'm not talking about like mansion homes, right? Like I just loved like this like California bungalow style, and I loved mid-century modern, and I didn't even know that I loved mid-century modern, but I fell in love with it. Okay. And then and like there's a beautiful, like you've been to LA obviously, right? Yes. And I ended up moving to West Hollywood.
Yes, my uncle
and you know how
West Hollywood.
Yeah, and you know how West Hollywood is, right? It's like this beautiful kind of like plain, and then there's the mountains, and everybody has houses on the mountains.
Yes.
To me, that just seemed like so gorgeous and romantic. And I literally went home and I said to my parents, I'm going to move to LA. And within, I want to say like 7 months, I ended up moving to Los Angeles, and I lived there for 8 years before I moved back to the East Coast, but to Pennsylvania for QVC. Yeah.
Okay. What was your first job out of college?
I worked at JP Morgan Chase.
Doing what?
So I went to NYU, and I have 2 degrees, right? So I have a finance and an information systems degree. And so finance, kind of everybody understands what that is. And information systems is basically, I don't even know if it's a degree anymore, right? But it was at that time a degree where you learned a lot about basically, you know, word processing systems like, you know, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and you learned how to use Microsoft technologies inside a business space. Okay. And so when I graduated from school, that was like a really, really good degree to have in like 99, 2000.
Yes.
And I got a job at JP Morgan Chase it was a management development training program. Mm-hmm. And basically, like, out of, I don't know, thousands and thousands of applicants, 30 people a year get the job.
Wow.
And you come in entry level, and when you leave 24 months later, you've gone through like all of these different jobs,
Okay.
working with like super, super high end executives. Like, so, managing directors, senior vice presidents on projects. And I know this sounds so boring, and I'm going to stop it right now, but like,
sounds fascinating.
so then you would work with these very, very like, kind of high profile individuals,
Mm-hmm.
and you'd work on these projects with them, and you got a global perspective of what the business needed.
Okay.
So then when you got out 24 months later out of this management development training program, you placed into a role, and very quickly you would like accelerate your career. So by the time I left JP Morgan, I was a assistant vice president, and I was only 26 years old when I left.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
But that's what those kind of programs do, and that's New York City, and that's like a finance city, and you know what I mean? Like, so the city's built that way, the banks are built that way, and the business schools are basically built that way to try and get you into those programs.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So LA, you went to the city of movies.
Yes.
Of dreams.
So here's the thing. That I was an Albanian pop singer.
Yes.
In my so I started that when I was like 13 years old.
Okay.
I did that throughout high school, throughout college, and even during the time that I was at JP Morgan Chase, I did like music videos and concert tours, whatever worked within the constraints of, my job. Yeah. So like there were times like where I would leave work on a Friday afternoon. I'd go right to JFK. I'd fly to Kosovo on like an overnight flight, and I would get there in the afternoon. I'd sing at a gig Saturday evening. Sunday morning, I'd take the first flight out of Kosovo. It was like 6 a.m. flight.
Right.
I get back to New York at like 3 in the afternoon. Monday, I'd go back to work. Right. So anyway.
To be young again.
I know, right? Exactly. Now I can't even say that without wanting a nap.
Agreed.
And I know you have stories like this about work.
Yeah, from a long time ago,
Where you were doing like 50 things at once, and QVC, and like going to Philly, and going to New Jersey, and
agreed.
I would never do that stuff right now.
I flew in and out of Atlanta on the same day to do a fashion show. Flew in, did the show, flew back out afterwards.
Now we'd need 3 days to recuperate afterwards.
100%. 100%. And like a double espresso. A nap and then a double espresso.
Yeah, a vitamin B12 infusion. Right?
Absolutely.
But anyway, so I was doing like this, I don't want to say dual world. I hate that like term, but I had these dual careers, right? Yeah. Like I had this fun hobby career that made money of singing, and it was great, and I loved it. And then I had this like real career that my parents and the system had taught me that I needed and wanted.
Got you.
And so I went to LA. I was just kind of in love with the idea. And a friend said to me, this doesn't make sense. And I said, what? And they said, you could be born and raised in America, learn another language, be a pop star in another country. Why don't you just do that here with your real first language, which is English, and in the country that you were born in? And I was like, nobody had ever said that to me that way before. And and I know exactly. And that's really what it takes sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. Like reality or something just super simple to smack you in the face and give you a new idea.
Yes.
And I said, you know what? You're right. I said, I could do this. I'm smart. I'm okay looking. I'm somewhat talented. There are people with less talent and less looks that are making it.
True.
Why don't I try this out?
Okay.
And I did it because I love it. Like I'm like you, Angel. I love, entertaining. I love smiling and being my own self and being in front of a camera. I mean, of course, it took me like several years to kind of really find, where I wanted to be in entertainment or in front of a camera, right? But I think, it's so sweet because of the journey, right?
Yes,
like
absolutely.
mm-hmm.
It's not the destination, it's the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. So eventually you got hooked up with a hair care line and then came to QVC as their ambassador, their guest.
Yes. So I was working for a company that did like a lot of like education and events and sell through for beauty, right? And again, this was like another like fluke, right? Like when I left JP Morgan, I had like plenty of money in the bank. It wasn't like I needed to go work right away. I could definitely take my time, but it was November the following year, right? Like, or, later that year, because I moved to LA on May 18th, 2000. And so November that year, I said, oh gosh, it's almost Christmas time and I need to buy presents for my family because I always bought them presents every single year, right? And I loved buying my mom something and my sister-in-law, like nice things. And I said, well, it's probably a bad decision for me to buy presents from savings.
Yes.
That I'm living with.
Yes.
And it was the very first time that I like paid rent and had a car and paid for insurance. And, I was a baby, right? Like, and I had lived at home all those years, which is why I had so much money saved, right?
And you didn't need a car or a car insurance in Manhattan.
No, because I had the Q train or the M train.
Right.
I had all these great, public transportation. And so I said, okay, I should probably get like a part-time job. And so I started looking around and, me, Angel, like I'm super clean. I'm very OCD and organized. I was like, I'm going to get a job at the Container Store. And so I like looked for a job and, when I realized like what people were like kind of paying for some of the jobs that I was looking for, like I was just looking for part-time work.
Yes.
And I was like, oh gosh, I said, I really don't, I was like, I don't know if it's a waste of time to work at some of these like hourly wages or if I should continue looking for something else. And I was talking to a friend and a friend said to me, well, you're good looking. You should spray fragrance at a department store. And like those guys make $30 an hour.
Yeah.
And I said, what? And I was like, well, I'll get these presents purchased in no time.
Right. I did that too, by the way.
Yeah. Like that's like a great job, right?
Yeah.
And like it's fun and you meet all these new people. But I'd never done that before, right? And like in college, I had a job at like a retailer. I worked at The Gap and I worked at Banana Republic for like 2 summers, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. I was like, well, let's try it. And I said, I don't know a lick about cosmetics though, right? Like I don't know anything about like beauty or fragrance. They said, don't worry about it. Because they just literally, you spray it and they'll buy it from you. I said, okay. So I went to Saks Fifth Avenue. And I went to Neiman Marcus and I went to Barney's and I said like, do you guys, have any jobs? And I submitted my resume, which is like NYU, JP Morgan Chase, like all these ridiculous things that have nothing to do with selling a fragrance. And these people all look at me like I'm crazy. And then this one department manager says to me, he was like, you know what? He goes, all the fragrance freelance jobs are taken. He said, but I know that Frederick Fekkai is looking for somebody to sell his shampoos and stuff. And I said, okay. And he said, so I'll give your resume to them. And, that's not a position with those retailers. It was like they call them like co-op positions. And so I said, okay. I said, well, let's see what happens, right? Like you got nothing to lose.
Exactly.
So the account executive comes in. Her name is Amanda. I love her. Still actually text with her now, every once in a while. And so Amanda walks in through the valet and I'm standing there with a suit and, kind of all like slicked hair and whatever. you know, what you expect a fragrance spray guy to look like, but except now I'm, you know, interviewing for this hair care position.
Okay.
And she has like a Starbucks in one hand, and she's got big glasses, and she's got like a purse hanging on the crook of her arm. And she walks in and she goes, "Oh, you're hired." And I was like, okay. I was like, well, that was easy. Yeah. And I was like,
That's
well, that was
fantastic.
Easy. Hopefully he'll be quiet. So I was like, okay, like, sure. And so I did that for November and December. And so I ended up working for that company for,
Gotcha.
you know, 4 or 5 years. But through the process, like, I managed, they like, after November and December, they were like, something's up. You have the most sales of any stores in the entire country, and you're beating New York City. They said, so who are you and what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'm just trying to sell this shampoo. You know what I mean? And like, I'm, you know, telling people what it does, and I'm giving them suggestions. And I had no sales technique, you know, like no, besides passion and like, you know, these
likability,
big Disney eyes that I was born with.
Likability,
I guess. And so, and you know, like, people were helping me out and everything. And it's true, like, I made like a lot of friends in the cosmetics departments, and everybody's so wonderful and sweet. Like, they're a kooky bunch of people. They're still great people right nowadays too, right? And so I ended up working for that company for about 5 years. Throughout the process, they had been on QVC several times with their brands. Like, so like Frederic Fekkai was on QVC, and then there was another brand called Glow Smile that was on QVC. Oh, sorry.
There we go.
What's going on? Okay, sorry. Somebody was calling me. So anyway, like, I watched QVC and I was like, what is this thing? People can be on TV and talking about products and, you know, doing all this stuff, and this is live, and they don't have to like memorize a script, and they're just acting like themselves, and they're having fun. And I'd known what home shopping was because my mom and dad, you know, immigrants, came to America in the early 70s. When home shopping came around, like, they loved it. They were watching it all the time. My mother has cameos. My mother has like all these things that she bought from home shopping, great jewelry that she had purchased throughout the years. But I, like, as an adult, it was like my first time really looking at it. Right. I said, I want to do that. I said, if I'm in sales, I said, I want to be in the Olympics of sales, right? Right. And so I looked and looked, and I just told everybody. I told every single person that I met. People would say to me, like, you're so great at what you do. What do you want to do? You know, like, is this what you want to do for your life? And I would say, no, I want to be on QVC. And you tell enough people, somebody's going to hear it that actually has the opportunity waiting in their hands for you. And that's what happened. Alterna Hair Care came up to me and said, we need somebody to go on QVC, and we want somebody who wants to be on QVC. Yeah. And so they said, you know, just, they said, can we audition you, and can we submit a tape to QVC for you? And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. Like, now it's happening, right? Like, this whole thing is like actually coming to fruition. And they, you know, here I am, right? 8 years later, right? Which is crazy to think about it, right? Like, that was 8 years ago. I was 30, I was 33, 32 going on 33 when that happened. That's amazing. Yeah,
what a great story. So what was your most, I know there's a lot of them, but what do you think is your most favorite moment while being on air, whether it was as a guest or as a host now? Most fun, most memorable.
There's so many. Like, there are so many good moments. But like, most recently, you know, we're doing these like gourmet holiday shows. Yes. And Rachel Bozing and I, we're just having the best time ever, right? Yeah. Like, she's just like such a good friend of mine, and we're just like two kids having a great, you know, play date. And like most recently, she was doing this show and mention. And for anybody that's watching that doesn't know what a show and mention is, it's like when you put the picture up on the screen and we say like, okay, well, we're not going to present this, but we just want to let you know it's available.
It's available.
And she says, and she goes, this is matcha. And she goes, what's matcha, you say? Like matcha, right? Like matcha drink. And so she goes into this thing. And I don't know why, but I got really kooky. And like, I thought it was the funniest thing that she was like asking this question, like, what's matcha?
What's matcha?
So I said, so I like make all these hand gestures to everybody. And I'm like, bring the camera here. And so I go, Rachel, Rachel, Rachel. And the camera comes to me and I go, you want to know what matcha is? I got your matcha. And she goes, oh, you are my matcha. You're my matcha man. And so then we both start singing, matcha, matcha man.
Matcha man, yeah.
It was just so fun and off the cuff, not planned, totally not planned. Like things like that can never be planned, right?
Right, right.
And it like, I went back and I watched it like 50 times, not because I'm like a narcissist or anything, but like I thought it was so funny. And I was like, when is this shock gonna wear off? And it never wore off. Like it was just funny to me every single time. I thought, wow, that's good stuff.
I love that. That is fantastic. So I know that you love food, like I love food.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what is one of your favorite QVC food products?
Oh, ooh, that's so hard.
I know.
That's so hard.
I know.
You know why? Because I love like, well, first of all, I'm a foodie, right? Like, just like you're a foodie. Like, I love appetizers and I love main dishes and I love desserts and like, I love everything, which is probably a good thing, right? Yeah. Right? But like, what am I loving right now? Like, what do I have in my freezer right now? Like, you know what? But I'm also super simple too. Like, I'll tell you what I love and what everybody should buy. We have these turkey burgers from Ray Rostelli, from Rostelli Meats.
Yeah.
And like, I love eating a burger. I love trying to eat healthier. When it's just me at home, just wanting something really good for myself. Like, I literally have these burgers on auto delivery. And I'm never, ever without them in my freezer. So that has to be my favorite thing because I literally have them on auto delivery all the time.
Okay. That's good. That's good to know.
And they're really good. If you haven't tried them, they're so good. Like turkey burgers are usually dry and bland and they have no flavor. These turkey burgers, like they plump, they're juicy. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. I don't even know. And actually the only thing that's in it is white breast turkey meat.
Oh, okay.
It's not like thigh or leg or anything funky. It's like all white breast, and you'd think like, well, how's the white breast that
moist,
that juicy?
Delicious. Yeah,
it's crazy. It's so good.
I will have to get those for this summer. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I have the croissants in my freezer. I have
I love the croissants.
The pretzel, the pretzels that are stuffed with the hot dogs wrapped with the pretzel. I have the wine cocktails in my fridge.
Gaze.
Gaze.
Oh, yes. So good. And that's the other thing I would say too, our wine. I never even think twice. When I order the wine, I'm just like, okay, it's so good. Like the price is good. It's delivered and it's like, but like they're good wines. Like I could never go to the wine store and just pick those wines out.
Agreed. I have wine here too. I still want to try the Christy Brinkley Prosecco. I haven't done that yet, but that's on my list.
So good.
Yes.
So good. Sugar free.
Sugar free. Yes. Yes.
Or the rosé.
Okay. Noted.
Or get the
noted. Mm-hmm. And so I can't have this chat with you and exploring in my Explorer without talking about your fur babies.
Oh, Coco is still here.
Hi, Coco.
She has not moved. And she smells so good. Oh gosh, she smells so good. I wash her here for a great bath. You know what I wash her with?
When?
Well, no, actually, so I would wash the dogs with when, except a poodle, you actually want their hair to not be conditioned.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like you actually want to use suds on a poodle
Okay.
because if you want to do like a brush fluffy hairdo, right?
Okay.
So I actually wash it with Philosophy.
Nice. With
Pure Grace.
With
Pure
Pure
Grace.
Grace. Oh, they smell so good.
Soap and water clean. They're just like, they literally smell like little soap bars.
Oh, that's adorable. Can we get Prince Charming to make an appearance, do you think, or no?
Prince Charming is on the couch. Let me
Okay.
see if I can go over. Do you want me to go over?
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. That's okay.
He's sometimes a loner.
Gotcha.
Like sometimes he'll be like, "Oh, you're on a Zoom call? All right, I'm just gonna go over here because I don't want you to exploit me and not pay me my royalties." I mean, he's totally. You know what he does now?
What?
When I go to take a picture of him,
he goes like this.
It's like I swear he looks. Yeah, I swear he looks at me like, "Oh, really? You think you're gonna use me for your job?" No. And then like he'll actually do this.
That I just snorted. That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
So crazy.
It is so crazy. Oh my goodness gracious. I know when we had our Lucy girl, I would try to get her and she'd be like, or she would look like she was in trouble. You're not in trouble, baby. It's okay.
I know Prince Charming has that anxious look on his face a lot of the time. If I ever do get a picture of him, he'll look like this. Or his eye will get all loose and go in this direction.
Oh, that is, oh my goodness gracious. That is hilarious. Oh man.
So funny.
Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? So you and I are dear friends.
Yes.
And I have loved getting to know some things about you that I never knew before.
My gosh, I can't believe that we haven't discussed these things. Like literally, for anybody that's watching, like Angel is one of my best friends, not just from QVC, but period. You know, Angel, I've said this to you a million times. Like no matter where I go in my life, like you're always going to be welcome in my life. And, you know, if I ever, you know, I mean, like, you know, I'm not going anywhere, just by the way, anybody that's watching, right?
But like, nobody be afraid.
Like, like nobody be afraid, but like, you know, like one day I'm sure I'll retire and move to Florida or California or wherever, right? Because none of my family is necessarily right here in Pennsylvania.
Right.
Like I've said to Angel a million times, like, Angel, you're going to still visit me when we're like really old and retired.
100%. A lifelong friend.
Yes, forever.
Yes. Well, I love you. Thank you for taking time to be with me today.
I feel honored that I was interviewed.
I'm so excited. So this was another episode of Exploring in My Explorer. Stay tuned for more of those. And watch for Alberti on QVC and watch for me on QVC too. I'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.